Let us pray. Dear God, we seek your help with our affairs today. Bless this meeting with your divine intelligence and wisdom. Guide our hearts and minds to the spirit of fairness, thought and speech, and guide our decision makers with that supreme wisdom upon their activities so they may reach a successful conclusion. Amen.
Please be seated. Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of North East Lincolnshire Council. A reminder that this meeting is being broadcast live. Members will need to use their microphones at all times when we are in public session, including when voting as part of any recorded vote. We have a lot of business to get through this evening, and I would like to remind members that this meeting will be subject to a final guillotine of 11:30. To ensure that items on the agenda can be dealt with properly and efficiently, I ask members to keep their questions and contributions focused on the matter under consideration, to avoid unnecessary preamble, and to refrain from personal comments or remarks. Debate should be robust where necessary, but it must remain respectful, relevant, and focused on the business before the meeting. Apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence from this meeting?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have apologies for absence from Councillors Brooks, Haggis, Hudson, Jervis, Oliver N, Oliver I, Russell and Swinburne.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Item 3, I now move the minutes of the meeting of North East Lincolnshire Council held on the 26th of March 26, the Mayor-making meeting of North East Lincolnshire Council held on the 12th of May 2026, and the annual meeting of North East Lincolnshire Council held on the 21st of May 2026. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from members in any item on the agenda for this meeting? Item 5, question time. The Council has received 5 questions from members of the public for this evening's meeting. Please can I remind members of the public to present the questions as submitted. The first question has been received from Carl Thompson, who unfortunately is unable to attend this evening, and I will read out the question on his behalf. The question is as follows. The Council already has a 4.5 million gap in its 2025-26 budget and is planning on free parking in Cleethorpes. 24-25 parking revenues showed a 300k deficit in operating NELC parking. How is the Council intending to fund this deficit to provide free parking? Councillor Batson, as the portfolio holder of Housing, Infrastructure and Transport, please will you respond?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much to Mr. Thompson for sending in the question. In 25-26, the Council had a balanced financial position and a balanced budget for 26-27 financial year. The free parking proposal on St Peter's Avenue is on a trial basis for 2 years with an estimated reduction in income of 145,000. In the short term, this will be funded from the Transformation Reserve. In the longer term, our goals will be reflected in the budget and medium-term finance plan. Our main point is to help the businesses in Cleethorpes, giving 1 hour free parking. This should attract more visitors who would want, hopefully, to stay longer in the car park. I will send this in writing to Mr. Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Batson. I will arrange for the written confirmation of the answer to be sent to Mr. Thompson. And before I move on to the next question, can I say that it's very hot this evening, and if you'd like to take jackets off, please do. The next question has been received from Tim Mickleborough, who is unable to attend this evening. I'll read out the question on his behalf. The question is as follows. How much space will be lost to pedestrianisation if the redesigned Cleethorpes Marketplace has 12 car parking spaces? Councillor Freeston, as the leader of the council and portfolio holder for strategic renewal, delivery and place leadership, please will you respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to Mr Mickleborough for the question. During the summer month, there will be no spaces lost because it will be fully pedestrianised. In the winter months, when the space isn't used as much, the space from Blend up until Market Tav will be lost. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. I'll arrange for a written confirmation of the answer to be sent to Mr Mickleborough. The next two questions have been received from Brian Dicker, who is not, unfortunately, in attendance this evening. So I'm again going to read the questions he sent. If someone had said a few years ago that I would be here asking the question I'm about to, I would have thought it was a bizarre joke, considering the campaigning I was involved in on children's services. However, it is evident that the scrutiny panel has been effective. Would the Mayor agree and join me in congratulating the Children and Lifelong Learning Scrutiny Panel with former Councillor Cracknell as portfolio holder for the award recently presented? And I've been asked to respond to that, and I would say I agree. And thank Brian for the question. So we'll move on to Brian's second question, and this is as follows. My second question relates to freedom of speech. When people raise the colours of a country, nation, community or cause, they are exercising a fundamental right to express themselves. It has been announced that only a limited number of flags will be raised above this building. While some may argue that there are more interesting and pressing matters, I believe the removal of certain flags raises important questions about freedom of expression and the messages this council chooses to send. The removal of the Ukrainian flag may be interpreted by some as a weakening of visible support for Ukraine at a time when it continues to face invasion. The decision not to raise the pride flag may also be seen as a failure to support the LGBT community rights to celebrate and be recognised. History reminds us why such recognition matters. Alan Turing, who helped shorten the Second World War, was later subjected to a chemical castration because he was gay and was only pardoned in this century. I also note that the leader of the council has reportedly blocked people on both his own social media page and those of Reform NEL after they challenged or corrected information posted in the public domain. Will he explain how this approach is consistent with a commitment to freedom of speech, where some expressions of public opinion appear to be restricted while others are considered acceptable? Councillor Freeston, as the leader of the council, please will you respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, I'm one of the biggest advocates of free speech that you will find in this room. I'm happy to take difficult questions. I'm happy to take criticism. What I'm not prepared to take is mindless trolling, insults and abuse that goes above and beyond what would be ordinarily acceptable in political disagreements. Indeed, in the last few months particularly, the online abuse has raised, it's become far more toxic, and the loss of our late Anne Widdecombe shows that the danger to politicians is increasing. So what I would say is, he said that I've blocked him or other people. There's also plenty of critics that I haven't blocked. What I won't do is tolerate abuse, and I understand that councillors across this room will also have had to block people online, because I'm afraid people talk online as their keyboard warriors. They wouldn't be brave enough to say it to someone's face. So I make no apologies for blocking people that cross the line. What I would say, I've actually unblocked several of those people and said, you've had a 2-week timeout. Are you ready to be more mature? Some of those have taken it in goodwill. Others have continued. They've been blocked again. Madam Mayor, I will never apologise for protecting myself, my family, my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston, and thank you, Brian, for your questions. I'll arrange for a written confirmation of the answers to your questions to be sent to you. Final question has been received from Steve Holland, who is in attendance this evening. Welcome, Steve. Would you like to put your question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Tony Blair recently gave a stark warning of the economic consequences of the rush to net carbon zero. stating that the country is penalising its own businesses, which cannot be afforded. The head of the GMB union last month talked openly of net zero madness, closing factories and hitting jobs and investment. The rush to net carbon zero is being encouraged and even led by councils such as ours that do not appear to understand the impact on our residents comparative to the negligible impact on climate change. Could the portfolio holder provide an assurance that this cabinet, in contrast to the previous one, will, as many other councils are doing, take a measured approach to this issue, including a reassessment of the 2030 target for NELC to be carbon neutral, so that there are sensible policies in place that balance the need for a strong local and national economy against our international climate change obligations?
Councillor Collison, as the portfolio holder for the Environment and Energy Security, please will you respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Mr. Holland. North East Lincolnshire Council has a net zero for 2030, which forms part of the council's existing policy framework inherited by the new administration. As a new administration, we are reviewing a number of existing council policies, including those of the net zero, the decarbonation. We will consider these carefully, taking into account the statutory policy responsibilities, the interest of the local residents, and to the importance of supporting economic growth and investment. As we still set out our approach in due course to the council established decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Collison, and thank you, Steve, for your question. I will arrange for a written confirmation of the answer to your question to be sent to you. The next item is item 6, the leader's statement. Councillor Freeston, will you give your leader's statement, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, members. What a long 2 months it has been. I would say it's been enjoyable, but at times it's been challenging. As you can imagine, a brand new council administration, many of whom have had no political experience before. But first of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to my colleagues around this table and the backbench councillors for the support they've given me to carry out my role. I'd also, in the interest of good spirit and goodwill, I'd like to extend my thanks to the opposition parties for working collaboratively over the last couple of months, and I do hope that goodwill will continue. As we've come into administration, we've come in with a fresh pair of eyes. We're not critical of everything that the previous administration did. Instead, we want to look at things, review things, and see how we can do things better. And of course, across the country, in reform-controlled councils, we're looking for best practice. I think it's fair to say in the coming months, the public and hopefully colleagues in this room will be happy with some of the things we introduce. Now, the successes of the last couple of months has been me keeping to my word of working collaboratively. I sent out an email on my first weekend. It was actually when the good weather started and everyone was busy having barbecues. I was sat behind the laptop, firing off emails, inviting all members to come on a ward walk. I deemed it the leaders' tour because I wanted to get out on the ground and learn more about every single ward, accepting that each ward is uniquely different. Another success has been the use of social media, not just my own social media or that of my colleagues, but I'm actually really pleased to see that the use of social media by many members across this room has increased. And the good thing about that is that it shows transparency to the public, and the public get to see where their taxes are being spent, but also the challenges that are behind it. I think as members, we've all felt that frustration of being held responsible for operational decisions, when in reality, we're councillors, we're there to set strategic policy, but there's often a misunderstanding of what councillors and their roles are. So I would implore all members to consider that on your social media, actually promoting why we can't do things, what our role actually is, and bringing the public along on the journey with us. First thing of being a new leadership was making tangible differences that the public could say, what have you done? How have you benefited our lives? For the last 3-4 years, we've had no toilets on the North Prom, but no toilets on the North Promenade, which has been a stain on our seaside resort. So I was very pleased to work with officers and introduce some temporary toilets, including an accessible toilet, which is free to use. And it was a common sense approach that was low cost, but gave provision, much needed provision. And of course, the elephant in the room, marketplace. I know it's quite a divisive issue, but you know me, never want to shy away from division and controversy. We came to office with a very clear intention to review the marketplace and see what options were on the table. Now, unfortunately, the contracts were already signed. There is a member in this room who was the previous portfolio holder for tourism. He was quoted in GI Media in a video saying that it would cost £5 million to cancel the contract. Well, I can inform members tonight that that was incorrect. I'll use that word for diplomacy. I can confirm the figure was far less, although for commercial reasons, I'll look for the direction of the Deputy Monitoring Officer. Perhaps I'll avoid quoting it exactly. But I can confirm it was significantly less. And the problem with that is, of course, is when you've got an elected member going on the news and misleading the public, creating a fury and a panic that our local finances are going to take an impact. What it does is it causes people to mistrust politicians, not just the administration, but everybody more widely, because they don't know who to trust. So please, members, think very carefully before we put misinformation out. But it's not all been sunshine and rainbows. In the first 3 or 4 weeks, first week they said, Leader, our bin wagons are going to have to go back to Leeds for a recall. I thought, oh dear, here we go. This is going to be a nightmare. And it wasn't great. But I put out to the public and explained the issue. And then they say that bad things happen in threes. Fortunately, it was just 2. The following week, they said, Leader, we've had mass staff sickness. We're going to have impact on the bins again. I know some people in this room tried to make political capital out of that. But I was pleased to see that actually, when you're transparent with the public, explain why things are happening, they're actually incredibly understanding. They just like to be kept informed. Part of my portfolio responsibility is restoring trust and transparency. I made that a key part of my particular portfolio title. And I think so far, so good, judging by the responses that I and my colleagues get when we're going out. And to be honest, that actually transpires to other members, because they come to me and they say, well, this is a breath of fresh air. We're not seeing this before. And I go, actually, there's a lot of councillors on the opposition benches who work incredibly hard. And I'll be the first to admit it, have worked harder than me in the past. I'm not going to lie or shy away from that. But again, it's about getting that message out. We work together, we promote each other, because ultimately we're promoting the work of councillors. We encourage people to step up and stand for what they believe in. We all believe in making North East Lincolnshire better, just sometimes we'll disagree on the way to get there. Just finally, I'd like to reaffirm our commitment as a cabinet to work cross-party. There will be teething issues, there will be issues of contention, and I'm sure in this agenda paper tonight, there's a motion that some people have seen and frowned and not been too pleased with, but that's the beauty of democracy. We're all allowed an opinion, no matter how controversial it is, so long as it's lawful, we put it politely, and at the end we shake hands, and the best debaters will win. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Prieston. We move on to item 7, Audit and Governance Committee Annual Report 25-26. Receive a report detailing the activities of the Audit and Governance Committee during the council year and setting out how it has discharged its responsibilities. This report was referred to Council by the Audit and Governance Committee at its meeting on the 16th of April of this year. The Chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, Mr. Paul Stone, is in attendance this evening, and I would like to welcome him to this meeting. I have invited Mr. Stone to introduce his report to members, and I now move the suspension of Council standing orders for this purpose. Do I have a seconder?
I rise to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you. Mr. Stone, would you like to address Council? A reminder that you have up to 10 minutes to speak, and I will let you know when you have a minute left.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to present the Audit and Governance Committee's annual report for 25-26. And this report provides a clear and transparent account of how the committee has fulfilled its responsibilities over the past year and how we've continued to strengthen the council's governance, risk management and internal control environment. At its core, our purpose is to provide an independent, high-level focus on governance, risk and control, giving assurance to council that these arrangements are effective. We scrutinise, we challenge and we support improvement. And we do this in an apolitical environment, working constructively with officers and auditors to uphold strong public stewardship. This year, the committee met 5 times, and that was supported by regular attendance from senior officers and the external audit. Alongside our formal responsibilities, the committee has developed an annual work programme to deepen members' understanding of strategic issues. And this year, we examined financial management processes, medium-term financial planning, and governance developments across key directorates. And these sessions have strengthened members' insight into the council's wider assurance environment. Training has been a particular strength. Members undertook a structured programme which covered items such as governance, internal control, financial reporting, risk management, counter-fraud and treasury management. Turning to our activity over the year, the committee has discharged a substantial programme of work. We approved the audited statement of accounts and reviewed the accounting policies for the coming year. We scrutinised the annual governance statement, ensuring that it accurately reflected the council's risk environment and the actions required to strengthen it. We received regular updates on audit delivery, the findings and the implementation of recommendations. Importantly, the committee's challenge continues to have traction, particularly in improving the timely implementation of audit actions. We engaged extensively with external audit, reviewing the external audit strategy memorandum and the completion report for the 24-25 accounts, including the auditor's annual report. And this work provides that independence assurance on the council's financial reporting and value for money arrangements, as the council received an unqualified opinion and no significant weaknesses in value for money arrangements, noting progression from previous year's value for money opinion. Risk management has been another core area of focus as the council's operating model evolves, ensuring that risk management remains both dynamic and embedded, and that is critical. Partnership governance remains an important part of our remit as well. We considered the updated partnership protocol and we received reports on governance arrangements in key service areas, including children's services, adult social care and the transition following the conclusion of the Equans contract. These reports help ensure that governance across partnerships and commission services remains strong and accountable. There are other significant reports that the committee receives, all of which are central to ensuring that the council continues to operate with integrity, efficiency and compliance. And this committee also undertook its annual self-assessment against SIPFA's good practice framework. The assessment shows that the committee largely complies with expected practice, but it also identifies areas for further development. And that includes evaluating members' knowledge and skills, strengthening the processes for selecting members, and improving the visibility of the committee's role across the council. And suggested actions are included in the report you have before you, and we will take these forward over the coming year. Overall, the report concludes that Audit and Governance Committee has effectively discharged its duties. It's complied with good practice and continues to play a vital role in promoting strong governance across the council. I want to thank all members of the committee for their commitment and constructive challenge, and to thank officers and auditors for their professionalism and candour. The committee's work relies on collaboration, openness and shared purpose, and I'm grateful for the positive working relationships that underpin our assurance framework. Members, the report reflects a year of rigorous oversight, thoughtful challenge and continued improvement, and it supports the ongoing development of our governance arrangements as together we ensure that the council remains accountable, resilient and well governed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Councillor Kasmarek, as Deputy Chair of Audit and Governance Committee, will you move receipt of the annual report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to propose that, and I'd like to say a few words before
That's
we
fine.
move on. Thank you, first of all, to Mr. Stone for his hard work, especially since taking over as chairman. It's been quite a good experience to be working with you as we hopefully progress to better scores. And I will say we do have some very good scores from this audit report, but I feel like I would be failing in my job here if I didn't point out the what I felt three largest points that we failed as the audit committee, which is about committee members being appointed to ensure they are knowledgeable and skilled, the evolution of knowledge and skills and training needs, and the last one, committee membership, about having a satisfactory level of knowledge. So absolutely, we've done well, but there is room to improve. And I think there needs to be effort from all of us in this room to ensure that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kasmarek. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much. I will now take a vote on this matter. That we accept the report of the Audit and Governance Committee. That's clearly carried. Thank you. No one against. Thank you. Okay, item 8. Moving on to item 8, questions on notice. 15 questions on notice have been submitted for this meeting. The expectation is that members will ask the questions as given on notice. The asking of any supplementary question is limited to 1 minute only and must arise directly out of the original question or the reply. Councillor Shreve, please would you put your first question, which is to the portfolio holder for children and education.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Shortly after the change of administration, our Children's Service won a prestigious national award, the Local Government Chronicle Award, recognising the dramatic transformation of our service in recent years. The press release covering this showed the new portfolio holder proudly holding the award, flanked by the Chief Executive and the Director of Children's Services. I know changes of administration happen, but in the press release, there was no mention of the considerable contribution made by previous portfolio holder, Councillor Margaret Cracknell. Shame on you all. Can the portfolio holder put this right and acknowledge the contribution made by Councillor Cracknell?
Councillor Grice, as portfolio holder for children and education, will you please reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your question. As you will see in the post, I didn't take any pride in taking the award for myself. It was an acknowledgement for the whole of all involved, being that the officers, all of the team and the portfolio holder previous to me. So yes, I do acknowledge that Councillor Margaret Cracknell did an amazing job with her officers, and I do acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Grice. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, Madam Mayor, thank you. I know Councillor Cracknell had a great interest of children within SEND or SEND. Can the portfolio holder tell me what his plans are to personally ensure that our schools and academies honour their commitments to integrate as many children as possible within mainstream education.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Is that related to the original question?
It's to do with children's services and it's a major issue.
A different
Madam
question.
Mayor, can we get a ruling on that by the Deputy Monitor Officer?
I would agree in that it's children's services issues. It's been an important department to us. So, Councillor Grice, could you answer that, please?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. I disagree. I don't believe it's within the keeping of the question, but I will answer it nonetheless. Yes, SEND is also very special to myself as well, which is why I visited all of our SEND schools within the area already myself, and I've already done a lot of work with them. With our academies, we have already opened several SEND hubs within them already, and there is 2 more due to come online later this year, with many more in the pipeline. So we are working very, very hard in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grice. Councillor Shreve, would you please ask your second question, which is to the portfolio holder for finance, resources and assets?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recall that the operational plan for 2026-27 included extending council tax relief to persons with terminal illness. This has not yet been applied. Can the portfolio explain the delay and give a commitment to implement as the finance plan dictates?
Councillor Taylor, as portfolio holder for finance, resources and assets, will you reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Shreve, for your question. Full Council supported an amendment during the February 2026 budget process to develop support for residents living with terminal illness. The resolution agreed by Council was to develop the framework for such a scheme during the 26-27 financial year. Officers have been progressing that work, and since taking office in May, have been working with Cabinet colleagues and officers to develop the framework required to introduce the scheme. I believe it is more accurate to describe this as work in progress in accordance with the timetable agreed by full Council rather than a delay. Introducing a new council tax scheme requires careful policy development to ensure it is fair, legally robust, financially sustainable before it can be implemented. The financial implications will be considered as part of the preparation for the 27-28 council tax budget, in line with the approach agreed by full Council. In the meantime, where residents are experiencing financial hardship because of terminal illness, support is readily available throughout discretionary hardship arrangements, including the Crisis Resilience Fund, and I would encourage all members to continue signposting residents to those schemes. I remain committed to bringing this work forward in accordance with the Council's agreed timetable.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Wilson, please. Councillor Shreve, you're entitled to a supplementary.
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My supplementary is in relation to council tax. Further on council tax, can the portfolio explain to us what actions you will personally take to ensure that persons who can claim, including those that are digitally excluded, which is the expression now, and can claim, that persons claiming any form of council relief are entitled to do so?
Councillor Taylor, if you would reply to that, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Shreve. I would like to reply in writing, if that's okay. Thank you.
Is that all right with you, Councillor Shreve? Thank you. So we move on to Councillor Wilson's question. Please, would you put your question, which is to the portfolio holder for environment and energy security?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given that numerous alleyways across the borough remain heavily blighted by dumped items and uncollected household waste, creating a direct public health risk through severe rodent infestations, including mice and rats, will the portfolio holder commit, under your leadership, to reviewing and changing current council policy to ensure that council takes active responsibility for the cleaning and ongoing maintenance of these alleyways?
Councillor Callison, as portfolio holder for environment and energy security, will you reply, please?
Horrible things, aren't they? Yes, thank you, Councillor Wilson. This question's about 3 weeks too early because I'm actually working on this and been working on it for quite some time. And I mean that when I delve into it, I'm delving into it for all of North East Lincolnshire, all 15 wards. And I have a very small budget for this. I'm looking for a fair way to deliver this. I will be taking this to Cabinet in about 3 weeks' time, or maybe a fortnight, as soon as the leader calls that one, for their blessing at Cabinet. And I'd like to put that in writing, please, if you'll accept that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Wilson is entitled to a supplementary question, to which Councillor Carlson will respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given that the answer, I think, is a yes to a review, and we heard that the portfolio holder is looking for a fair way to do that. Interestingly, some wards have miles.
Madam Mayor, point of order. Is there a question?
Yeah, there is.
I don't
If
believe
you could get
preempt's
there,
allowed.
please, Councillor Wilson, it'll help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, interestingly, that some wards have miles of alleyways and others don't. How will he ensure that the funding for each ward represents the proportion of alleyways to make it fair?
Thank you for your question. Councillor Carlson, will you respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you once again, Councillor Wilson. Yes, we have got 15 wards. I'm pleased you've acknowledged that, because in the past it's only been 2 or 3 wards that's had more spending than the whole of the 15 wards. I want to make this a fair and easier way and a more sensible way to do this. And by doing that, I've got 1 or 2 ideas. I'm working on them. I'm not going to divulge the actual means at this moment because it may be rejected by our Cabinet. But when it is accepted, or whatever is accepted, you will be the first to know, and I'll put it in writing to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Dawkins, please would you put your question, which is to the portfolio holder for Culture, Heritage and Visitor Economy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to the Meridian Showground and the increased capacity announced earlier in the year, can the portfolio holder give me an update on what events that have been confirmed taking advantage of the new increased capacity?
Councillor Braisted, as portfolio holder for Culture, Heritage and Visitor Economy, will you reply, please?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Councillor Dawkins, for your question. At the beginning of this year, the previous administration approved the plans to increase public event capacity for Meridian Showground from 5,000 to 15,000, which will give us far more opportunities to attract larger events. But before we promotionally market is on a promotional market is undertaken to advertise an extra 10,000 public capacity. The public must safely satisfy itself with the venue. The venue's aging, sorry, I do apologise. 10,000 capacity. The council must firstly satisfy itself that the venue's aging infrastructure can safely support the large numbers of proportional measures that takes place to protect public safety. Work is already underway to assess the venue, and this information will help the organisation and the council to the recommendations that are required to ensure Meridian Showground can accommodate the increased capacity for further events. At present, the bookings are promoted. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. At present, bookings are looking promising for 2027, and out of 54 days availability, they have 10 confirmed function bookings and a good future bookings pending. Sorry, hope we got that up.
Thank you, Councillor Braisted. Councillor Dawkins, you're entitled to a supplementary question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe that the facilities were part of the application to increase the capacity, and that's another story. So what leads me to this is, so in Scunthorpe in 29 days' time, they're holding a pride
Madam
event.
Mayor, point of order. Is there a question? There's no.
Yes, there
preemptive
is.
allowed.
Yes,
Then could
just
you get
wait.
to the
I think we'll
question?
get there in a moment, please, Leader.
Yeah, I've got a minute. I've only used 10 seconds.
Madam Mayor, can we get advice from the Deputy Monitoring Officer? Does he have a minute or does he have to get to the question?
Order, Madam Mayor. Why does the leader keep challenging instead of listening to the questions that are being put forward? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Dawkins has a minute.
Thank you. So I'll start again. So Scunthorpe in 29 days' time is holding a pride event, estimated to attract 15,000 visitors to Scunthorpe Town Centre, with local businesses fully support. There's obviously demand for a pride event. Would the portfolio holder work with the pride organisers to bring a similar event to Cleethorpes, bearing in mind the new capacity at the Meridian Showground, to the benefit of local businesses and residents? Thank you.
Councillor Braisted to respond.
Thank you for your supplementary question. At the end of the day, the only thing I can do is work with the officers to find out whether or not the actual showground is capable with the infrastructure that's there at the moment. So the answer that I'm prepared to give you is, at this moment in time, I can't give you one.
Thank you. Councillor Humphrey, please would you ask your question, which is to the Leader of the Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Many residents in my ward of Scartho are paying both council tax and an annual open space management fee. The latter of this is to a private company called Greenbelt, who state they're, quote, the UK's leading specialist in the stewardship of public open spaces, end quote. However, many residents are dissatisfied with Greenbelt as they feel the services received inadequate for many reasons, including flooding or closed play areas or overflowing litter bins, or just generally the inaccessibility of those open spaces. That company aren't viewed by many as transparent or accountable, nor value for money. These open spaces are public open spaces, but privately managed and charged for. How will the council leader support myself and the other two ward councillors in Scather in tackling this situation, please?
Councillor Freeston, will you give your reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I sent an email a couple of months ago inviting all councillors in this room on a ward walk with me to raise issues such as that. And I agree it's a very important issue. So in direct answer to your question, I'll be able to support you and your ward colleagues if you respond to my email and accept my invitation to do a ward walk with you.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. Councillor Humphrey, do you have a supplementary? He said yes.
Okay. That's my initial question. How does the anomaly of private management companies with extra charging and public open space fit with the leader's vision of place leadership within his own extended job title, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe that everybody should be responsible and that the services delivered to residents of this borough should be first class. And if the member for Scartho can make any suggestions to me, I'd be happy to take them forward, discuss with my colleagues. And again, I would implore members, including Councillor Humphrey, to raise these issues on ward walks with me rather than delay it and wait until a council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. Councillor Jackson, please would you put your question, which is to the Leader of the Council?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The North East Lincolnshire Council local government reorganisation proposal, which was unanimously supported at a special full council meeting last November, included the following statements. We propose that we remain as an existing high-performing unitary council within our existing borough boundaries. That was on page 4. We have a solid track record of financial prudence, operational resilience, and strategic foresight. That was on page 6. Our external auditors, Forvis Mazars, have constantly found no significant weaknesses in the council's arrangements for securing economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. These arrangements consider financial sustainability, performance and service delivery, and governance and decision making. That was on page 31. And we are an established high-performing unitary council and wish to remain so. That was on page 50. Does the Leader of the Council stand by these statements
that he voted in favour of last November?
Councillor Freeston, will you reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I stand by the vote that I made last year. Do I agree with every single thing that was in that paper? Probably not, although I'd imagine there's members all around that would have had issues with. But as Councillor Jackson knows, you don't pick one issue and refuse to vote for something. You look at it holistically. That's what I did, and I made the decision.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, you have supplementary?
Yes, thank you. I know I have a minute, but it won't take a minute. On the basis that the Leader of the Council supported those statements last November, why a few weeks later did he publish and have distributed a leaflet which stated that the Council was broken?
Councillor Freeston to reply.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Well, the answer is quite simple, because I believe that the council was broken. We're on the way to repairing that, and the person who broke that is sat in the chair right over there.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston.
Madam Mayor, may I make a complaint tonight? As point of order, we are not supposed to make personalised comments against other members. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'm moving on. We are following the agenda. Councillor Aisthorpe, please would you put your first question, which is to the portfolio holder for Safer and Stronger Communities.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Council has publicly committed to supporting women and girls and is White Ribbon accredited organisation. Given the administration's decision to discontinue flying the International Women's Day flag, can the portfolio holder explain how the decision aligns with those commitments?
Councillor Sawkins, a portfolio holder for Safer and Stronger Communities, please will you reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Aisthorpe, for your question. First, let me make it very clear that the Council supports women and girls. We support White Ribbon. We support the work to end male violence against women and girls. And we support the people who do that difficult work every day. But we don't just speak about it, we act. Each year, around 1,000 Year 12 students receive training that helps them spot harmful behaviour and gives them confidence to step in safely. That work has grown into Grimsby Institute and HETA. We have invested in CCTV, lighting, visible ambassadors to help women feel safer in Grimsby Town Centre. We work with pubs through Ask for Angela. We work with schools, colleagues, businesses, transport provisions, and Humberside Police. More than 200 people joined the Reclaim These Streets walks in March 2025, and that work will continue. That's not a slogan, and that's not a photograph opportunity. It's real work, and our job simply is to raise awareness in this area. But the question before us is not whether women and girls deserve our support. The question is whether this council should keep choosing which causes and groups represented by a flag above a civic building. And I ask, where does it stop? One flag today, another tomorrow, another next week. Who decides which cause is important enough? Who decides which group is recognised? Which group is left asking, why not us? That does not bring people together. It risks dividing people into separate groups and asking the council to choose between them. That's not our job. Our job is to serve every resident equally. Every man, woman and child, every faith, background, race and sexuality. Everyone. We all eat, sleep, work and live here together, and there is one banner that belongs to all of us, the Union flag. It does not ask who you are. It does not ask what you believe. It does not ask your sex, your race, your faith or sexuality. It represents all of us. To me, that is real inclusion. So this policy is not about taking support away from anyone. It's about treating everyone fairly and applying one clear rule to all. Let's not judge this council by a flag above a building. Let's judge it by the lives improved inside and beyond it. by the young person who learns to challenge harassment, by the woman who feels safer walking through the town, by the victim who gets support, by the pub worker who knows how to help someone through the Ask Angela scheme, by the police officer, teacher, volunteer, support worker and council officer who takes action. Flags do not protect people. People do. Education does. Partnership does. Action does. And that's where this council continues to put its time, its effort and its resources. Our support for women and girls has not changed. It never depended on a flag above this building. It depends on the work we do within it and the difference we make beyond it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Ainsthorpe, do you wish to ask a supplementary?
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your answer. The numbers of male violence against women and girls is not equal to men. It's significantly higher. So if the visible public recognition is not considered important to you, what message does the administration believe removing that recognition sends to women and girls when the numbers are significantly higher of male violence against them across North East Lincolnshire?
Thank you for
to reply. Thank you.
your supplement question. I'm going to reply in writing, if that's okay. I think I already answered it in my first statement, but I'll follow up with that in writing. Thank you.
Is that all right with you, Councillor Ainsthorpe? It's fair standard procedure.
I don't think it's her choice. I think it's the member's choice whether he replies in writing or not.
Councillor Sawkins, can you just explain why you'd need to provide that in writing? I think Councillor Ainsthorpe is entitled to a reasonable answer now.
Because I don't have to, I'm going to reply in writing.
But you do need to make reasonable endeavours to answer the question this evening.
Well, I want to fact check first, and I'm going to respond in writing.
That's fair enough. Thank you. Thank you. Thorpe, please would you ask your next question, which is the portfolio holder for housing, infrastructure and transport?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Disabled residents can complete the council's entire application and approval process for a disabled parking bay, only to find that it cannot be installed because another vehicle repeatedly obstructs the location before the road markings can be painted. Does the portfolio holder consider that an acceptable outcome for a disabled resident who has been assessed as needing that parking bay?
Councillor Batson, as portfolio holder for housing, infrastructure and transport, will you reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question. No, it's not an acceptable outcome. Thank you.
Councillor Ainsthorpe, do you have a supplementary?
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. What changes will the portfolio holder consider to ensure that disabled residents who have been assessed as needing a disabled parking bay are able to receive that provision?
Thank you for the supplementary question. What will you do to help that disabled person that's a resident of yours that can't get the parking space because the other residents won't allow it and move their cars? I don't block them. There's methods to do, and I will speak to the highways team to see if I can find a solution. But the solution's to all of us with a resident that's disabled because the other residents are not allowing it.
Thank you, Councillor Batson. Councillor Ainsthorpe, please would you ask your final question, which is to the Leader of the Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors across the chamber have previously been advised not to publish photographs of themselves with frontline operational staff because of concerns of maintaining officer impartiality. Can the Leader confirm whether that remains the Council's current guidance to members?
Councillor Freeston, please will you reply? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've asked the monitoring officer to advise me just so we can get that formal policy in writing, and we'll share that with all members.
Thank you. And Councillor Ainsthorpe, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Could you also include if the guidance applies equally to all councillors as well?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. Councillor Besant, would you ask your first question, which is to the portfolio holder for housing, infrastructure and transport?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Councillors across the borough regularly report uneven and at times dangerous footpaths, and sometimes they are repaired very quickly. And at other times, officers advise us that works will be completed in 3 months. Will the portfolio holder commit to making sure that repairs are always completed on time, but most people would say 3 months to repair footpaths is too long? With that in mind, would he commit to coming forward with a new policy which will make our footpaths safer for all pedestrians?
Councillor Batson, will you reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question. With 478 miles of footway, we must be committed to take the risk-based approach to inspect and maintain. Some are done as an emergencies, others are done over a period of time. On the point of a new policy, I can commit officers to carry out a policy review when an update from the national policy is released in autumn. I welcome feedback from ward councillors regarding footway conditions and their performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Batson. Councillor Besant, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I welcome the news that there's going to be a review, because there's many people out there, similar to me, getting a little bit old this. Fortunately, I've never fallen, but some people, conditions such as cerebral palsy and things like that, find it very, very difficult.
Councillor Besant, is there a question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Also, wheelchair users. A very small step on a footpath for a wheelchair user is dangerous. So I hope it's a very tight policy, what you're going to come back with, to take all residents into account.
Thank you, Councillor Besant. Do you want to make a reply, Councillor Batson?
Yes, it will be a very tight policy. This is why I've asked all other councillors that are seeing these things to send in feedback. I can't operate without feedback coming to us of these little problems that happen. Thank you very much.
Councillor Besant, would you like to ask your second question? Which is to the Leader of the Council.
On 17th of March 2022, this council unanimously supported the following notice of motion. This council is appalled by the shocking events in Ukraine and the devastating effects on our people. We welcome the generous support being offered by our local community to the people of Ukraine. As a council, we pledge to do all we can to facilitate and enable further support across North East Lincolnshire, including those families who have been forced to flee their homeland. In light of this unanimous decision, why did the Leader of the Council change our flags policy to stop the Ukrainian flag from flying above the town hall?
Councillor Freeston, will you reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, that question's already been answered by my colleague tonight, so I'll try and keep this a little bit brief. Before we took office, we was out speaking to the public, and the public have been clear. They want one flag, or the flags of this nation, to fly above our town hall, less of the division, less of the nonsense. And whilst we support Ukraine, indeed we support many countries that are in conflict across the world, is Councillor Besant saying that one country is superior to another?
Councillor Besant, you're entitled to a supplementary question.
I'm not saying one country is superior to any other whatsoever. This war is by an evil dictator.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, and I've just checked the rules on standing orders. They're allowed 1 minute question without preamble. So please, Madam Mayor, could you enforce the rules?
Councillor Besant, 1 minute, please.
We passed this notice of motion, and to be honest, I think it's appalling that members...
Madam Mayor, for the fifth time this evening, that's not a question, that's a
Leader.
I'm going to bring the monitoring officer in.
Councillor Besant, there's no preamble, it's just a question.
with the 50 residents who have talked to me about this policy, and they think it's appalling that we're not showing the support to the Ukrainian people?
Madam Mayor, I promise I'm not being facetious. I didn't hear the first part of the question. Would you repeat it?
Councillor Basantas, thank you.
Do you agree with me, the 50 residents across this borough who's talked to me about this policy and they find it appalling, will you reconsider?
Go ahead, Councillor.
Madam Mayor, that's democracy. Everybody has a different view on things.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. Councillor Morland, please would you put your first question, which is to the Leader of the Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Councillor Freeston. Good to see you in the seat to which you believe you're entitled.
Madam Mayor, can you stick to the question I set out? There are the rules.
Councillor, I'm sorry.
Just welcomed him, Madam
I'm
Mayor.
not going to take
I don't see
interruptions.
anything wrong.
Councillor Morland, continue, please.
I welcome him, Madam
Members.
Mayor. Right.
Members.
Councillor
Councillor Morland, just indulge me for 1 second. Members, Madam Mayor has advised you repeatedly. The Deputy Monitoring Officer has now also reminded you repeatedly. Please stick to your questions. No preamble. You have a minute for supplementary. Please,
Right.
Can you adhere to those requirements? Thank you.
Good evening, Councillor Freeston. Would you agree with me that a council leader should lead the authority with dignity, openness, accountability on behalf of all residents?
Councillor Freeston to reply.
Yes.
Councillor Morland, supplementary question.
On that basis, would you give an apology to a member of this community that the BBC noted was racially abused because of one of your posts on social media? And that is, would you give Nora, the subject of those things, of that attack, your fellow Seagull fan, a public apology tonight? Thank you.
Councillor Freeston to reply.
Madam Mayor, I believe that was 2 questions.
I think they were linked, to be fair. But if you please reply.
It was simply asking for an apology and whether you'd give that this evening, Councillor Freeston.
It's gone through the standards process. I've made my comments public. I've reached out to said people. I think that Councillor Morland is now using this for political capital, and I think he should be ashamed.
Councillor Morland, please would you ask your next question, which is to the portfolio holder for culture, heritage and visitor economy.
Right. Would the portfolio holder please tell us which of the flags the minor administration allows to be flown in North East Lincolnshire?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Morland. Right, the 2026 flag policy has been updated from the 2012 policy, which remained uncontested until now. This reform-led council has set out a clear and formal approach to the flag flying across the borough. On the 9th of March, the Commonwealth flag will fly at Grimsby and Cleethorpes Town Hall. On the 23rd of March, the Grimsby Borough flag will fly at Grimsby Town Hall only in recognition of Grimsby Charter Day. Armed Forces Weekend, Grimsby, Cleethorpes and Cleethorpes Memorial Gate will fly the Armed Forces flags. When the delegation from Königswinter arrive, Cleethorpes, as their twin town, will fly the Königswinter flag. On the 3rd of September, the Red Ensign flag will fly in recognition of the Merchant Navy. On the 23rd of September, the Cleethorpes Borough flag will fly in recognition of Cleethorpes Charter Day. From the 1st to the 11th of November, for Remembrance Week, the Royal British Legion flag will fly at Grimsby and Cleethorpes Town Hall, also represented around our borough for the fallen. As a mark of respect to our King and Country, the Union flag will fly 365 days a year, and the St George flag will fly every day except the days I have read out to you today. The 2026 amended flag policy is available on the North East Lincolnshire website. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Morland?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Will the authority be flying the emergency services 999 flag to celebrate the workers and emergency workers of this town on August the 15th, when they will be down on the seafront? Madam Mayor, we've been told the flag does not protect people, but these people protect our lives, and that flag should be flown to celebrate that day.
Thank you, Councillor Morland. Councillor Braisted, do you reply?
Councillor Morland, would you mind if I get back to you with that one? I've put that in writing.
That sounds like a fair answer, Councillor Morland.
Madam Mayor, I fail to see that it is a fair answer, because we're asking questions in open council, and for them to keep coming back and saying we want give a written reply.
Can you
is
sit
just
down,
not
please,
good.
Councillor Morland?
It is not democratic, Madam Mayor.
Please, thank you. Councillor Braisted is clearly going to review that, presumably, with her party. She can't just answer that on her own behalf. So I think that was a fair answer.
Moving on, Councillor Emerson, please would you put your first question, which is to the Leader of the Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given the cancellation of the first scheduled Cabinet meeting, will the Leader agree that scrutiny panels and certain committees were in a disadvantage to be able to conduct their plans, business and overall work due to not having robust decisions and information to work with, which has resulted in the proper timely democratic procedures not being able to fully take place?
Councillor Prieston, will you reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do you remember in my first speech when I became leader 2 months ago, and I said sometimes you'll make mistakes and it's about holding your hands up. Do you remember? Don't keep going down that road. Hold your hands up. Say you got it wrong. I was given advice that we should suspend that cabinet meeting because we had a whole new cabinet who was familiarising themselves with their portfolio. So on the surface, it seemed like a sensible thing to do, and then hear the items at the next panel. Subsequent to that decision, a few members in this room, and including ex-councillor Holland, who I have a great deal of admiration and respect for, he made a comment that I took on board. So in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. Yes, I think that it would have been better to have that cabinet meeting, so I apologise. What I would say, and also Councillor Clough raised a fair comment, what I would say is it's not the first time that monitoring finance reports have gone to scrutiny panels and they've been outdated. So do apologise. We'll try to ensure that it doesn't happen next time, but I hope you can understand the rationale. It was nothing seedy or trying to hide anything.
Councillor Emerson, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Freeston, for your response. Yes, hope it is a learning curve, and hope all of the new portfolio holders are settling in well and they can come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. Councillor Emerson, please would you put your second question, which is to the portfolio holder for finance, resources and assets?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In local government, every administration must balance existing financial commitments with new priorities and strategy responsibilities, with new ideas, ambitions and targets. Therefore, can the portfolio holder provide an indication of whether the administration currently expects council tax to increase in the next financial year?
Councillor Taylor, will you reply, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Emerson, for your question. At the present time, no formal decision has been taken on council tax levels for 27-28 financial year. The council will consider council tax as part of the medium-term financial plan and the budget setting process later this financial year. That work will be informed by the government's autumn budget, the local government's finance settlement, updated forecasts of demand, inflation, funding levels and the council's priorities. The current approved medium-term financial plan includes planning assumptions for future council tax increases. However, those are planning assumptions, not decisions. Any proposed council tax level will be considered through the council's normal budget process with scrutiny members before the final decision is taken by full council in February 2027. It would be therefore inappropriate for me to preempt that process today.
Councillor Emerson, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your response, Councillor Taylor. I'd like to ask, would the portfolio holder and the whole cabinet be willing to work cross-party for all our ideas for the upcoming budget? Thank you.
Councillor Taylor to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Emerson, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. We seem to have been getting through these questions quite rapidly, so I think we can get another couple of items on the agenda covered before we take a break, if that's okay with everybody. I'm suggesting we do item 9, which covers the polling district and polling places review. This should be fairly straightforward. We're going to consider the seeking of and approval to commence consultation. That will be on the review of polling districts and places and polling stations, and to agree the proposed timetable and consultation approach. Councillor Freeston, will you move the recommendations?
Madam Mayor, I rise to move the recommendations.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
The Mayor, I rise to second.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers? Okay, so we'll go to the vote on this matter. Okay.
It's a recorded vote, Madam Mayor, but just to make sure you're voting on the recommendations.
So we're now doing a recorded vote. Oh, sorry. Sorry, my mistake. I'm going to do it by hand. Okay, everybody happy with that? So all those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you. Were there any objections? Anyone against? No. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 10, amendments to places on committee and panels of the council and the outside body appointments. To consider a report advising of proposed changes to places on committees, panels and outside bodies of the council since the annual meeting held on the 21st of May 26. Councillor Freeston, will you move the recommendations, please?
Rise to move, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a seconder?
Madam Mayor, I second.
Thank you. I'll now take the vote on this matter. Councillor Jackson wishes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to speaking in relation to recommendation 2 in front of us tonight about the Leader of the Council changing the membership of the Health and Wellbeing Board so that he's no longer a member of that board. I would remind members, Madam Mayor, that the Health and Wellbeing Board is a statutory body. All upper tier councils must have one. It is a key committee of this council which brings together all major partners in the community to try to bring about improvements to the health and well-being of residents of North East Lincolnshire. Madam Mayor, when I was leader of the council, I was always a member of the Health and Wellbeing Board, and I believe that was also the case of when in the previous Labour administration, when the leader was also a member of that board. I think the presence of the leader at the Health and Wellbeing Board sends out a strong message to our partners and the community, especially when we are a Marmot council. In my view, Madam Mayor, Councillor Freeston's lack of attendance sends out a message about his commitment or lack of it to the health and well-being of our residents. On that basis, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the recommendations that we only approve recommendations 1, 3, 4 and 5 and give Councillor Freeston an opportunity to reconsider his position to withdraw from the Health and Wellbeing Board. And just a reminder, Madam Mayor, that it is the leader's prerogative as to who is on the Health and Wellbeing Board. So if the leader does want Councillor Henderson to be a member, he can be appointed whether or not the leader remains a member. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That means we now have an amendment. And Councillor Shreve, were you going to second that?
Yes, I rise to second. Thank you. I note the intent to co-opt Councillor Henderson on the Health and Wellbeing Board. Such an appointment is at the discretion of the leader and doesn't need to come here. I have no problem with this appointment other than saying it's not a scrutiny panel. The Health and Wellbeing Board is a board that develops and approves all major health strategies and has an increasing number of statutory responsibilities. It's a board where all major stakeholders attend. It is therefore incredible that Councillor Freeston is stepping down from this board. This sends a completely wrong message to our stakeholders and national government, never mind CQC and Ofsted, both of whom look for strong political leadership. I call on you, Councillor Freeston, to do your duty and reverse your decision. Thank you.
Councillor Freeston, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to speak on the
Point of order, Madam Mayor, but I think Councillor Freeston moved the report without reserving the right to speak.
It's the amended motion, Councillor, then they do keep up.
This is an amendment, so you're free to speak.
Speak on the amendment.
Madam Mayor, on a point of order, other members have not had the right to speak on this.
It's an amendment.
I think the monitoring officer has just said everybody has the right to speak. It is an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Conservatives just don't get it. They haven't listened, have they?
Madam Mayor, on a point of order, the Leader of the Council should sum up at the end after the debate has concluded.
Not on the amendment, Councillor Jackson. You should know this. I continue, Madam Mayor.
You're entitled to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Conservatives just haven't learned, have they? We're a cross-party council, we're a minority administration, and it's my view that we should be working with other parties. And perhaps if the colleagues on that bench over there had done so in previous years, they may not be sat there where they are right now. Now, Councillor Henderson has years, in fact, sorry to...
Madam Mayor, on a point of clarification, Councillor Freeston is quite wrong. The previous Health and Wellbeing Board did co-opt the Labour leader, so it was cross-party.
There's no such thing as a point of clarification, Councillor Shreve.
Okay.
Continue, Councillor Freeston.
For the fifth time. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry to out you for your age here, Councillor Henderson, but you've got decades. In fact, I was had to guess multi-decades experience in the health and wellbeing. Indeed, I understand that you've been involved with multinational organisations. So actually, I'm more than happy with my appointment. And as part of being leader is appointing people to the right places. And I do believe Councillor Henderson has far more experience than me in this particular role. So I commend his appointment to full council and hope we take the common sense decision to support him rather than more political gerrymandering nonsense from the Conservatives.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. So can I just point out, if we are to have any more speakers, they are to be on the amendment, and then we'll come back to the substantive motion. So, Councillor Bright, you suggested you want to speak, but I don't know which is on. Okay, we'll come back to you then. Thank you. Do we have any more speakers on the amendment? Okay, so we'll go to a vote. All those in favour?
Can I just be clear, members, you're voting on the amendment at the moment, which was Councillor Jackson removing recommendation 2.
All those in favour? And all those against? Any abstentions?
Thank you, members. Result of the vote, 7 for, 21 against, 5 abstentions. So the amendment, fails, and therefore we go back to the substantive recommendation. Madam Mayor, it's up to you if there's any further speakers on that before we put the vote.
Okay. So I think Mr. Bright, Councillor Bright has asked to speak. If you would turn your microphone on, just to make it clear.
Yeah, Councillor Freeston already said what I was going to say. Basically, the best person in the room's been chosen for that board, so I'm happy to recommend it.
Thank you, Councillor Bright. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on the substantive motion? Councillor Shreve.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I make it absolutely clear that I have no problem with Councillor Henderson being co-opted onto the Health and Wellbeing Board, and agree that he has relevant experience that would be useful for the board. But I kind of make it clear again that I think the leader should be there because it sends out all the wrong signals if he's not.
Thank you, councillor Shreve. Any further speakers on the substantive motion? And if not, we'll go to the vote. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I rise to speak on this.
Sorry, is this a right of reply, councillor Freeston?
Madam Mayor, yes.
Thank you.
So again, being leader is about delegating to those in your team, not necessarily on the same party as you. But what I would say is, whilst councillor Shreve and councillor Jackson is saying that I should be at every and each meeting, unfortunately, I'm being very proactive. I'm getting out on the ground, doing the things that they failed to do. So unfortunately, my diary is a lot more busier than theirs, Ed was.
Thank you, councillor Freeston. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour of the substantive motion?
Sorry, so I can't let councillor Freeston get away with that. He has no idea.
Please sit
how busy
down,
your
councillor
diaries are.
Shreve.
He has no idea.
Councillor Shreve, please.
If you stand up, can you please explain what you're standing up for? If there's a point of order, then please tell us what the point of order is so we can make a determination, please.
Thank you. I had said we are going to the vote. We have heard now the response from councillor Freeston as the main speaker. So please, all those in favour of the substantive motion?
Just to be clear, recommendations moved by councillor Freeston originally.
Any against? Any abstentions?
Result, members, 4, 25 against 6, 3 abstentions. Therefore, recommendations go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, member. We're going to take a break. We've got 3 motions to look at when we come back. I think if we take 10 minutes, that should be fine. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Before we move on, can I remind members to keep their questions and contributions focused on the matter under consideration, to avoid unnecessary preamble, and to refrain from personal comments and remarks. Debate should be robust, wholly necessary, but must remain respectful, relevant, and used on a business-like basis in this meeting. Also, when making points of order, please tell me which rule has been breached so that the Deputy Monitoring Officer can check and advise. Otherwise, sit down so that we may continue. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, regarding points of order, there was cross-party agreement that to quote the rule is too difficult for members to do it, but you should have an essence of the rule. So I just want to clarify that. So there should be, you know, for example, the speech isn't following the debate or something like that, which is the essence of the rule, rather than quote the rule, because the pages are this thick. You'd have to have a photographic memory to do that.
Monitoring Officer to reply. Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. That's exactly it. I'm not expecting you to quote rule 10.2. All I'm expecting is to say, I might not even know all of those myself. So all I'm expecting is to say, in essence, what you think has been breached. Somebody's already spoken on this debate. For example, that is sufficient. But please just stand up and quote that. Don't start making speeches. Just quote it so we can advise and move on. We've got a lot of business to get through. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Monitoring Officer. A notice of motion has been submitted by Councillor Clough, seconded by Councillor Wilson, and submitted in accordance with the Council's constitution. Councillor Clough, you have 10 minutes in which to propose this motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure everyone will be relieved to know that I'm not going to spend anywhere near 10 minutes. I haven't written anything down. It is still up for debate whether I'm better without anything written down or not, so we'll see by the end of today. So I think the motion is laid out quite clearly. It's quite a detailed motion and everyone's had the opportunity to read through it. So the only thing that I want to add is that it's time. I think all of us in all of our wards see empty properties. We don't just see them in terms of, we know people need housing, we see them in terms of falling into rack and ruin, creating antisocial behaviour, lack of pride in our communities. It's been a good couple of decades since our local authority and social housing linked back together, and I think it's time that we went back there. So I hope all members can take the motion for what it means for our borough and what it means for us as a local authority. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clough. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to second the motion and I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I have an amendment which has been submitted on notice. Councillor Jackson, please will you move the amendment?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Can I just first of all say I'm more than happy to support the general thrust of the notice of motion and very much welcome it, but I just really wanted to make two minor amendments, but I think they're quite important amendments, and the amendments have been circulated around to members, so hopefully you had an opportunity to have a look at them. The first amendment is just the second bullet point under the council believes section. I read that existing housing stock should be brought back into use before significant new development is pursued wherever practical, and then adding this bit,
though empty homes brought back into use do not contribute to North East Lincolnshire's unrealistic and undeliverable government-imposed target of 622 new homes per year. Madam Mayor, I'm not going to talk at length about the council's 622 homes target each year that has been imposed upon us, but I am just a little bit concerned that the notice of motion at the moment gives the impression that new homes brought back into use might be able to contribute towards those 622 new homes required each year. I'm afraid we did approach the government to ask if that would be a possibility, and they made it very clear that that's not the case. So regardless of how many new homes, empty homes we might be able to bring back into use in any given year, that is not going to make any contribution towards our government target of 622 new homes. That is a completely separate target. I just think we need to clarify the motion so as not to mislead people into thinking that if we were to bring 100 new homes back into use in a given year, we would only have to build 522 new homes instead of 622. So it's really a point of clarification. And the second amendment is under resolution number 4, where I would like it to read, where there is a proven business case to bring empty homes back into use, refurbished properties should meet high standards of energy efficiency, accessibility and quality. The reason I wanted to bring in the mention there of a proven business case is because we all know that it's not going to be financially responsible to necessarily refurbish every empty home. So I think we have to emphasise that there's got to be a business case, a robust business case for each empty home we're bringing back into use. A derelict home, for example, might be too neglected. It might have been significantly damaged. It might have had fire damage, for example, or it might have major foundation problems. Those are just some of the examples of why it may not be financially viable to refurbish a particular empty home. So I think each one has to be judged on its merits and judged on a robust business case. I think it would be irresponsible to spend public money on every empty home, especially taking into account the relatively low property values in North East Lincolnshire, which do mean it makes it more financially difficult to justify bringing some empty homes back into use. So I think the motion needs to acknowledge and reflect the fact that there were some empty homes which will not be viable to bring back into use. So I think that's why I'd like to see the second amendment included. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Shreve, will you second them?
Yeah, I'm right to second and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor Clough has asked to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the saying is once bitten, twice shy, which has happened to me with small amendments that the Conservative Party have attempted to put on our motions previously, to name the NACOA one and the Armed Forces Officer one. I don't believe this is misleading. I believe it is responsible. It's been accepted as so from the legal team here. The whole point of it is to build up the case and report in the beginning. I think the first part of the amendment is to throw a little bit of politics in there. No politics is mentioned in this. This is for everyone in the borough. So for me, I won't be supporting the amendment. I am comfortable with the research and the work that's been put in to the notice on motion. And usually when I present a notice on motion, I usually stand quite steadfast to it because I do believe in transparency, honesty and being responsible. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clough. Councillor Freeston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to speak against the amendment. I would echo what Councillor Clough has just said. It feels like we're going back to the dark days where political parties put in amendments just so they can try and claim said motion, which I think is really disappointing and frustrating because it's just a waste of all of our time, and hopefully the amendment won't pass. So specifically the first point that Councillor Jackson raises, saying that it's misleading and that people won't realise that it doesn't go towards the government's target. I don't actually see anywhere in the motion that suggests otherwise. I think that's an inference that Councillor Jackson has made, and I think he's wrong on that. And specifically resolution number 4, where it says where there is a proven business case. In all fairness, we're the administration, we're the ones who are going to be tasked with implementing this. If I thought it was unrealistic or setting us up to fail, I would be against it. But actually, if you read the exact words of it, this council resolves to commission a report examining the feasibility, the financial implications and legal requirements. To me, that seems incredibly reasonable, incredibly rational, and we can then provide a report to a full council in future and update people. So I think that Councillor Jackson's concerns may be miswarranted.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. Councillor Henderson.
I'm not a fan of the disingenuous hijacking of motions on notice, to be quite honest with you. I think the 2 points made, the first one is purely a political point designed to trap Councillor Clough by making a comment on the Labour government. Don't like that. But the one that I really don't like is the business case one, because I think, as Councillor Freeston said, it's already there in the paper. And actually, one of the most inspiring things about our town is the work that East Marsh United have done to bring back their streets in the marsh. They've done a fantastic job with their community ISA, operating as a responsible landlord, doing up houses in hard to let areas. And I think we should be following their model and looking at what they do. So actually, your concept of a business case probably isn't mine. So I stand against this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Shreve, is this your right of reply? No. So you reserve the right to speak.
Yeah, I reserve the right to speak, so
That's right.
I'll speak.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Just a point of information for Councillor Henderson. I'm a shareholder in East Marsh. You know, and so I do understand what they've done. So good for them. I'm afraid you are making it political. It is not political. It's context for people who don't know that the people may believe that bringing empty homes will count against the target. And without that sentence, they don't know that. So that's the only reason that's in. And the second point about the business case, it goes self-evident. I think Councillor Jackson made a very good point about not every home can be brought back. And that's all that's saying. So it's not political. I'm really disappointed that you're making it political. I'm really disappointed that you're making it political. And I do realise that the amendment's doomed, but such is life.
Councillor Jackson, would you like to reply on the amendment? I've got other speakers. Sorry about that. Councillor Bright was first.
Yeah, just on the point Councillor Shreve made, if it had just said about the 622 new homes per year, I would agree it wasn't political, but to state unrealistic and undeliverable government-imposed targets was what made it political. I don't see any value in any of these two changes. It adds nothing. We're asking for a feasibility study, and as Councillor Freeston has already said, that will be reviewed by Cabinet. So I don't see these add any value to it. I won't be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor Bright. Councillor Bonner, did you also speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't be supporting this amendment. The main reason being the section that says this council believes to read existing housing stock should be brought back into use before significant new development is pursued. I see no reason why we can't do both at the same time, and why we should be restricting ourselves in this way. And I also think that the second part of the amendment is already covered in the original motion. So for that reason, I shan't be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, I'm rising to vote against the amendment. It's interesting how it's been framed, the amendment, that it's there to inform people, and all this lot seems quite reasonable, and it's not political. Well, if this isn't political, then nearly every other councillor in this room knows it's political. I mean, who are we kidding here? You know, I'm going to read it out again. You know, North East Lincolnshire's unrealistic and undeliverable government imposed target. So yeah, it's absolutely political. Whereas we've tried to look at an issue that's widespread. We know that, everyone knows it. That if you're living next to an empty house, it's not just about the value of the house either, Madam Mayor. If you're living next to a house that's got damp and stuff, it comes through to your house. If you're in a terrace house or if you're in a semi-detached house, it comes through. It can cause mold and bad living conditions for all sorts of residents living next door to that. Empty houses, they attract vermin. And we know if you're connected that there's roots there then from that house into other houses, and all that entails. I won't go on to patronise councillors to know the details of that. And so we've brought to the table a non-political motion, but a motion looking for the council to do some work to see. And a feasibility study, that's what it says, to do some work and to see what can be done. Madam Mayor, you don't need to put prescriptions in there before that feasibility study's been done. And I think councils know that. That might be part of the feasibility study. That, you know, we won't be able to afford to do £300,000 on a house when it's only a little terrace house, for example. That'll be maybe part of it. I don't know. That'll be, we'll wait and see for that. However, to say, I'm going to re-emphasise, and it's a bit of a joke, really. I find it funny, so I suppose a joke is in the eyes of the beholder. I'm just going to laugh at it. Not political. It's unbelievable. So with that, I'm going to sit down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Do we have any further speakers? Councillor Emerson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to talk about the second part of the amendment, Resolution 4. I'm confident if this does get passed, the work start going on, that it won't be shoddy, rushed work. It'll be well-detailed plan. But is this what the amendment is implying, that it will be shoddy, rushed work? I don't know. But is it not a legal statutory responsibility for new homes to be energy efficient, accessible, and to be of a high quality, including health and safety? This one says about the accessibility, disabled residents requiring adapted housing. Well, accessibility will come into this.
Don't think that's in the amendment, Councillor Emerson.
Standards of energy efficiency, accessibility, and quality.
But not disability, or does that say disability? I haven't got a copy.
On a point of personal explanation, Madam Mayor, that is not actually the amendment. That is the part of the original motion.
Okay, so we're sticking to the amendment, and I misheard you. I thought you said disability and not accessibility.
Thank you. So yes, all what I've said, and yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a little bit perturbed, really, the fact that they find it so, and Councillor Wilson's still smiling, this figure of 622, that he finds it so amusing. Clearly not sat on the planning committee, because as those that have sat on the planning committee,
Madam Mayor, a point of personal explanation. I didn't find that figure amusing. What I found amusing was that it was, the
I-
amendment was,
I think we all understood, councillor
the
Wolf.
amendment was taught as not political.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I said.
I think we'll leave it. I think we know what was intended. But those members that do sit on the planning committee will share the frustrations that I have when we refuse big housing developments, only for those developments to be overturned on appeal because we can't demonstrate a 5-year supply. The 5-year supply that's been increased by this.
Point of order, please, Madam Mayor. Are we supposed to be speaking on the amendment?
I am
not
on
the
the
motion.
This is.
We are on the amendment.
Yeah. I'm talking about the 622 that's being dismissed by members in this chamber. I think it is important, and I think it was an important point that we tried to get across. It wasn't being political, not being political at all. It just wanted to demonstrate the fact that that reduction would not be taken out of the 622 houses. And it is an important point to remember, because believe me, as a planning member of the planning committee, there's nothing more frustrating than to refuse a planning application only to see them time after time after time get overturned by the inspectorate. So just bear that in mind, please. But this is in no way meant to be political, but that was the crux of the amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kaczmarek, are you going to speak on the amendment? Thank you.
Right, thank you, Madam Mayor. Looking at this amendment, I'm not going to go over the political point scoring. It's been covered enough. But I've been looking at especially the resolution 4 part about where there is a proven business case. At no point was there any real talk about, do we need a business case for each individual house? Point 4 simply says to ensure that all refurbished properties meet high standards of energy efficiency, accessibility and quality. That isn't saying that we need a business case on every one. We do, but we're not asking for that. We're simply saying when there's a business case and when the work is done, make sure that people can live in it. And this has just been hijacked. It feels like we're trying to make it more complicated than what it really needs to be. We're here to try and simplify things, because I'll be honest, half the time I struggle to keep up with what's going on. And I like to think I've got a good grasp and understanding of a lot of important issues. But I appreciate the members of the public, most of them probably don't know the complexity of a business case. This motion was to be simple, easy to read for anybody in our borough. And it feels like the Conservative amendment has added unnecessary complexity to this. And to bring up planning and what happens at planning is supposed to be apolitical. And I feel like that has trodden into some murky waters, Madam Mayor. And I think we need to stay well away from discussing about planning issues in full council, especially on a motion that it has no bearing on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kaczmarek. Do we have any more speakers on the amendment? Okay, so we go to a recorded vote. Sorry, Councillor Jackson, right to reply.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of points, Madam Mayor. I mean, first of all, I don't really think you can call this motion simple and easy to read when it is spread over 2 pages, 2 A4 pages of the council agenda. But anyway, we won't make anything more of that. Just with regard to the allegation that the point about the housing target numbers 622 is being political, can I just remind members that there was a unanimous notice of motion approved at this full council last year, accepting the fact that 622 new homes per year for North East Lincolnshire is unrealistic and unattainable. And it was agreed that we would write to government and ask for that target to be reduced to 400, 200 market homes and 200 social homes. And that was unanimously approved by all members of this council, including all the members of the Labour group who were present,
all the members of the independent group who were present and the one member of the reform group who was present last year at that meeting. So there's nothing political about that. All the members of this council agreed it last year, and it is in effect council policy. So all I'm doing in this motion is reiterating what is already council policy with regard to the government's housing targets for North East Lincolnshire. Now, I do think my point about clarifying the fact that bringing empty homes back into use is not going to contribute to that target figure is relevant. And I'll just quote a couple of sentences from the motion. The one at the bottom of the first page: returning empty homes to occupation would regenerate neighbourhoods, reduce antisocial behaviour, improve public health, preserve existing housing stock, and make better use of existing infrastructure. That's all fine. But then it says, while reducing pressure for new development. It won't reduce pressure for new development, because the pressure for new development is the 622 new homes per year, which is the government target. And then we've also got the sentence that I mentioned earlier in the amendment: existing housing stock should be brought back into use before significant new development is pursued wherever practicable. We don't have any say on whether or not we pursue significant new development. That is going to happen because of the 622 per annum housing target from the government. And as I said earlier, bringing 200 new homes back into use in any given year is not going to reduce that target by 200. So I think this is somewhat misleading for the uninitiated reader who might be thinking that bringing back empty homes into use is going to be the panacea for dealing with all the current planning problems we have around our 622 per annum government housing target. Therefore, Madam Mayor, I do stand by the amendments.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. So we'll now go to a recorded vote. Those in favour of the amendment? No? Sorry, recorded. Yeah.
The members are voting on the amendment. So all those in favour say for, those against say against, any abstentions say abstain.
Madam Mayor, can I just ask why we're doing a recorded vote? Whose decision was that?
It's in the
It's on
Constitution,
in line with the
Councillor.
Constitution.
In order, it has to be a recorded vote on a notice of motion and an amendment of a notice of motion.
Councillor Aisthorpe.
Against.
Councillor Augusta.
Against.
Councillor Batson.
Against.
Sorry. Councillor Batson P.
Against.
Councillor Pissant.
Against.
Councillor Bonner.
Against.
Councillor Boyd.
For.
Councillor Braisted.
Against.
Councillor Bright. Councillor Callison.
Against.
Councillor Charlesworth.
Against.
Councillor Clough.
Against.
Councillor Crofts.
For.
Councillor Dawkins.
For.
Councillor Downs.
Against.
Councillor Emerson.
Against.
Councillor Freeston. Councillor Goodwin.
Against.
Councillor Grice.
Against.
Councillor Henderson.
Against.
Councillor Humphrey.
Against.
Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Kasmarek.
Against.
Councillor Lindley.
For.
Councillor Main.
Against.
Councillor Mill S. Councillor Mills J.
Against.
Councillor Morland.
Against.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Patrick.
Against.
Councillor Sawkins.
Against.
Councillor Shreve.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Thank you, members. The result of the recorded vote, 4-7 against 27. Therefore, it fails and the substantive motion is now the original motion.
Thank you, members. We'll now move back to the original motion. Were there any further speakers? Did we have the seconder, the respondent? Okay, so Councillor Bonner wants to speak on the substantive motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to support this motion because what's happening in North East Lincolnshire is indefensible. We have thousands of residents waiting for a home, families in crisis, young people leaving care, veterans who served this country, victims fleeing violence, disabled residents stuck in unsuitable accommodation, and yet over 1,300 homes in this borough are sitting empty, rotting, attracting crime, dragging neighbourhoods down, and reminding everyone that we have allowed this problem to fester for years. Let's say it plainly. This is a failure of the system, and it's a failure we have the power and responsibility to put right. Every long-term empty home is a symbol of wasted potential. It's a front door that could be opened to safety, stability and dignity, but instead stands boarded up, vandalised or forgotten. We can't keep telling residents we care about housing need while walking past hundreds of abandoned properties that could be transformed into secure homes. Our current approach has tried persuasion, encouragement, nudging owners to act, but the numbers have barely shifted. Some owners won't act. Some can't act, and our communities are paying the price for that inaction. In antisocial behaviour, in neighbourhood decline, in reduced confidence, and in the sheer frustration of seeing homes left to rot while families wait. This motion says enough is enough. It says the council will stop being a bystander. It says we will intervene directly through voluntary purchase, negotiated acquisition, and when necessary, compulsory purchase orders. It says we will reclaim these homes, refurbish them to high standards, and keep them as permanently affordable housing for the people who need them most. And yes, it says we will explore becoming a social landlord, because if we are serious about tackling housing need, then we cannot keep outsourcing responsibility and hoping someone else will fix it. Leadership means stepping up, not stepping back. This is not just a housing policy, it's a regeneration strategy. It's a community safety strategy. It's a public health strategy. And let's not forget that this council recently committed to becoming a Marmot borough. It's a moral commitment to use the homes we already have before bulldozing fields for new ones. Colleagues, our residents are watching. They know the difference between warm words and real action. Supporting this motion shows that we are prepared to do what previous administrations have not, to take ownership, take responsibility, and take empty homes back into use. Let's stop letting these properties decay. Let's stop letting neighbourhoods decline. Let's stop letting families wait. Let's bring these homes back to life. I urge members to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonner. Councillor Jackson, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Despite the fact that we've lost the amendment on this side, I will certainly be supporting the motion as it's set out. I think all the problems and concerns which are set out in the motion are all very relevant. And I've been a member of this local authority since 2003, and I've lost count of the number of times, particularly at scrutiny panels, when we've talked about the problems of the rising number of empty homes that we have across North East Lincolnshire. And it is a blight on certain parts of the borough. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, just a reminder, this isn't just something that's happening in North East Lincolnshire. It's happening in a lot of towns, particularly in the north of England, where property values are relatively low, simply for the reason that the cost of bringing empty homes back into use, if they're in very poor condition, doesn't actually make it financially viable in terms of the increasing value that the owner of that property achieves. And I think if it had been as easy as some members like to think to bring all these empty homes back into use, we would have done it by now, and all sorts of different ways forward have been looked at. But I'm pleased that we are once again taking the opportunity
to fully reevaluate all possible options. So I'll certainly be fully supporting the motion. I'm even in favour, potentially, if it's the right thing for us to do, for us to become a social landlord again, because I think that, you know, back in 2010, when we moved all our housing stock over to what is now Lincolnshire Housing Partnership, we did lose a lot of control then. At the time, there were good reasons for having to do it, because we didn't have the money as a council to be able to refurbish the properties, and the government at the time was saying that if you want to get the investment into your homes, you've got to transfer them over to an independent social landlord. So it was done for the best of reasons at the time, but I think there is a good argument for us potentially becoming a social landlord again. I know not all members of my group agree with me on that, which is fair enough, but I'm happy to support that part of the resolution. Unfortunately, Councillor Bonner, just to come back on the point that you made, bringing empty homes back into use, as I mentioned earlier, is not going to stop the bulldozing of greenfield sites, as you quoted, because that's being done to meet the government target of 622 new homes per annum. It's got nothing to do with the number of empty homes we may or may not be bringing back into use. So that is not going to resolve that problem, I'm afraid, whilst ever we have that target. But I will be supporting this notice of motion. Welcome the fact that we're going to be looking again at any and every possible way of bringing empty homes back into use. As I say, I don't think we're going to find it quite as easy as we think. I don't think there's a silver bullet that's going to come forward, but I look forward to seeing what comes out of this feasibility report, and I do sincerely hope that we're able to find a way to try and tackle at least part of the problem that we've got. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Henderson.
Fields are being bulldozed to pay property speculators, not in pursuit of government targets. I've got 2 points on this motion which I support, and I really love it. The first point is the complexity of bringing property back into use, and I agree with Councillor Jackson, having tried to bring one back on the Yarborough ward, but I'm not for giving up. The process was long, it was convoluted, there were many stages to it. It was a full-time job chasing anyone to get it done, and my sense is that that was due to the national framework rather than things that we can influence locally, which was the issue. So in the review that's proposed in the motion, I would really like it if we could have some focus on that point and ask officers to include a set of recommendations as to how we could address the national issues in their output. The second one relates to the role of LHP as our prime local provider of social housing. I expect the review will flush out the potential role of LHP going forward. And I have to say that I'm frustrated with the pace at which LHP develops its spaces and its contribution to placemaking locally, not just building houses, placemaking. I note that it appears to be in relative financial health, and therefore I question whether the council's put enough pressure on LHP to work harder to meet local needs. Working harder need not stress the organisation. They seem to have the potential to do more without taking on risk, for example. So I'm sceptical about the council creating a rival for LHP, while there's the greater potential to work with them, to help us to fulfil our needs. I'd also like to see the review extended to include other potential partners who are doing great work, like Doorstep. Same principles apply. How can we partner to meet our needs without creating something new to cope with issues that we can best solve by collaborating better? So thank you very much for bringing the motion on notice. I think it's a really good one, and I wholeheartedly support it.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Crofts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wow, I'm actually agreeing with Councillor Henderson, which really scares me. I do understand the theme of this. I really do think it's good. I'm disappointed, as Councillor Henderson said. Why aren't our partners doing it? What are we going to find from our case study that we can do better than partners, landlords? I think the review, when it comes to Cabinet, will be really difficult to look at and cost, because it will be expensive. We haven't got the skill set at North East Links at this moment in time. We have partners who have skill sets. And I agree again with Councillor Henderson. Should we not be pushing them a little bit harder to do exactly what it says on here? I really do support this motion, and I'm all for it. I just don't think we have the skill set to look at it in depth enough. So I will support it, but I agree with Councillor Henderson. Push the partners harder.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crofts. Councillor Besant.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I applaud you for bringing this notice of motion forward. To be honest, it's been said, the blight on the community there. Councillor Wilson said some of the things, the reason why a blight on the community, but you get a long-term empty property, you finish up with about 4 tonne of waste in the rear of it, you do. And to be honest, I'll praise the empty homes officer for the work she does. She manages to resolve quite a number of my issues. She's actually brought some back into use, a few, only a few, but she's brought some back into use. But with the right resources, look at the difference we could make. I'll quote care leavers in this and homeless people. Wouldn't it be a great opportunity for care leavers to be getting an apprentice, learning the skills, learning plumbing, learning plastering, etc. Then be given the opportunity to take up that tenancy of that property. Same applies to homeless and the other categories. Because to be honest, we haven't thought out the box before, we haven't. And this is a real opportunity in the review to make a difference. And to be honest, who would want to live next to an empty property? Who would want to live next to it? They're pulling down neighbourhoods. No wonder the housing market is gone down. No wonder they're selling for £20,000 or whatever. Get those properties renovated and it'll uplift the whole of the area. And to be honest, I hope we're not talking about tens. I hope we're talking about hundreds and more, because it needs to happen, not just in this area, across the whole of the UK. So thank you very much for bringing the notice of motion forward.
Thank you, Councillor Besant. Councillor Goodwin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the borough, we are desperate for houses. This motion has come, it may be spread over 2 pages, but for me, it gives all us councillors understanding and information what this motion's for. So thank you to the 2 guys that's done it for us. And I'd just like to say, I go on ward walks in my ward, and LHP have got houses that have been empty for like 2-3 years, and I bring them up every time, and it's, oh well, we haven't got the workmen, we haven't got this. But listening to this debate today, we have had several ideas about getting people working with their partners. Probably is something we should seriously look at, getting involved with not only LHP but all the other social housing providers, because it's not just LHP, there's other people as well. So I think this is a motion, and I think it's a good motion, and I think it's a motion that the Borough of North East Lincolnshire needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Bright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll cut mine down a lot because Councillor Bonner and Councillor Henderson have covered a lot I was going to say. But just to let people realise that the number of vacant or empty properties in this borough is well above the national average for empty homes. And our own housing economic development needs assessment and the 23-28 housing strategy show how big that gap is. To actually meet our affordable housing need, it needs to be 50% of all new homes if we wanted to cover that housing need. And if we look historically, we've averaged 45 homes a year. That's about 30% of the total. So private developers are never going to bridge that gap. And we also, going on to what Councillor Henderson and Councillor Crofts touched on, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to look at what other councils are doing. Kent seems to be the leader. They've brought around 9,000 properties back into use through its no-use empty scheme, using recyclable loans that help to pay for themselves. Derby, Hull and Leeds are using enforcement and direct purchasing to turn neglected properties into good social housing. And many councils are using the empty homes council tax premium to help make the schemes self-funded. We can't keep doing exactly the same thing and expecting a different outcome. It's time the council took the lead, and I applaud this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bright. Councillor Lindley.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It was a good few number of years ago when I was actually on the shoreline board as a member from this authority. We had 2 seats on there from this authority, and I remember being on there for quite a few years. And it was clear at the time with shoreline that they had a quite a good record in terms of turning round empty properties. And I think that was contributed by the fact that it was a fairly small geographical area. And I think the problems arose once they became absorbed into what is now LHP. And I share Councillor Henderson's views about what he raised about LHP. And I think that we at the same time, I also share Councillor Croft's views, and I think that he's got a valid point. If it was that easy to take that back in, we'd have done it a long time ago. And I think the Cabinet have got some serious work to do and to look at that, and I'm sure they will do, and come back with a report that we can consider and look at. But certainly, I think that it makes sense. I think, and I think I can see the rationale for this motion. And like I said, and like Councillor Jackson, just because we lost the amendment, I will be fully supporting the motion. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lindley. Councillor Wilson, would you like your right of reply now?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I was thinking about what I was going to say, which I'm not actually going to go down that line now, I was going to talk about the communities. I sort of did that in the amendment anyway. So, but what I will say is anyone that's been on this council a while will know that I've been campaigning about empty homes for years and years and years. I've come up with different ideas. I've come up with different what I thought were solutions. They weren't taken up, but it's not something that that we've not thought about for a long time. And it makes me proud to stand here and second this motion. And it makes me quite emotional, actually. But I do want to temper, I would imagine, I do want to temper enthusiasm from Councillor Bazant. Because, with anything, it'll start off, I would say, with a seed, and it's got to grow into a big tree. And that'll take support and enthusiasm like Councillor Bazant's enthusiasm and the enthusiasm of all members that are going to support this motion. So, yes, I'm not going down a persuasive route on this speech, but I'm going down the route that I'm really pleased about what I've heard tonight, how people are going to support this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Clough, your right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep it really brief. I really appreciate people's words tonight, and it's made me feel a little bit emotional, actually, as well. In terms of it's not something we haven't thought about, it's going to be really hard. I've never shied away from hard work. I've never shied away for a challenge. Sometimes the biggest challenges that we face bring the outcomes that we all need. I believe that if we all believe that this can and should happen, we will find a way of working together to make sure that it works. And I would be happy to do whatever work is necessary to make sure that this comes to fruition. Because as long as I'm a councillor, this is not going to fail on my watch. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clough. In accordance with the Constitution, I will now take a recorded vote on the substantive motion.
Madam Mayor, may I propose, in the interest of timeliness, we suspend standing orders and get a decision to vote en bloc by group leaders if everyone's happy? It appears everyone's voting the same way.
You can do that if that's seconded and everybody's happy.
Madam Mayor, I second that.
Thank you. Any objections? No? Okay. We'll take the vote on block. So we go to the leaders in turn.
The motion is unanimously supported.
Clearly, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
So what I'm suggesting now is that we go on to suspend standing orders because it's getting towards 9 o'clock. So I'd like to move the adjournment of the meeting. I'd like to suspend standing orders to allow the meeting to continue beyond 9:30 should it be required. Leader, please would you second this?
Second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you. That takes us on to item 12, second notice of motion. A notice of motion submitted by Councillor Freeston, seconded by Councillor Grice, submitted in accordance with Council's constitution. Councillor Freeston, you have 10 minutes in which to promote your motion.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Now, this motion undoubtedly will cause a lot of heated debate, but what I would remind members is that democracy means that people can bring controversial topics to the table, and indeed we shouldn't shy away from voicing our opinions in a respectful manner. Now, to me and my group, the first responsibility of a government is to their own people. And the dispersal scheme, which is impacting communities up and down the country, indeed, such as in North East Lincolnshire, has been imposed upon us with no vote, no say, and in fact, quite the opposite. In two successive local elections, in which I admit there has been an element of national voting, people have voted clearly and resoundingly for Reform UK, not just here, but across the country. But I'll keep it local because this is a local issue that I think could add benefit to us. We won 14 out of the 15 seats at the local election, and we stood on a platform not just on our local issues, which I'm incredibly proud about, but also clearly on a manifesto of protecting British people and legal migrants' interests first. So the imposition of a nigh on 270 illegal migrants or asylum seekers, as people may choose to call them, imposed upon us at any one time, that number may seem fairly small. Indeed, when you walk around town, you may be forgiven for seeing that the demographic change over the last 18 months seems to have exceeded that number. But what I would say is the number is fairly misleading. So if you think about it, you have 270 migrants put in area under the dispersal scheme. The local council has no say on that. The houses are rented through Serco MERS at an inflated rate. So you have 270 now. Each year, say 100 are processed. We don't know. 100 are processed. So you'll have 100 go into having legal status. You have 170 left. Government will send another 100 to replace that 100 that have been processed. So you can imagine how, as the years go on, that conveyor belt invariably leads to a very different and changing area. And the impact of that is very clear on our local housing. House prices have been rising, and I'm not attributing that directly to illegal migrants, but what I would say to you is one house taken up by Serco or MERS to be housing people who have entered the country illegally is one house too many for me. But as it happens, it's approximately 60 to 70 houses. So whilst we've got our own people who are on the housing waiting list and cannot be housed, I think it's unfathomable that as a council, we wouldn't say, you know what, we're putting our own people first. We will support this motion that would see two things. First of all, we would write to government and would say, we don't want to be part of the dispersal scheme. We haven't had a say on it. It's imposed. It's undemocratic. We talk about devolution. Why don't they devolve those powers? I'll tell you why, because the people would vote resoundingly to say, no, we don't want them. And then the government would have a big issue because they'd have nowhere to send them. Perhaps they should consider sending them to Bristol. The other part of this motion is something that isn't just a letter, it's something of more substance. It is the voluntary schemes in which this council signs up to. So the dispersal scheme for People's Clarity is imposed upon us. We have no say, but this motion would see us fight back against that. The voluntary schemes, such as the Afghan scheme, and there's a few others. The Afghan scheme that was made up of two parts, it's been merged into one. For us, so I cast my mind back to a few years ago, and the council purchased houses for people from Afghanistan, specifically to house those from Afghanistan. Whilst we have British people on waiting lists, they've literally jumped them to the front of the queue, and I can't believe that. And indeed, when we're out campaigning, motions like this curry a lot of support. So I'm pleased to put this before you. I understand that the Labour group may not support this policy, but I would say to the Conservatives, this leaves them in a very tricky position, because I know that they're unwilling to work with my administration, as has been proven by previous votes, as has been proven by the fact that I've not yet been on any ward walks with them. They seem unwilling to cooperate. I will caveat it with you, Councillor Crofts, you're the only one who's responded. But you've got to think now, Councillor Jackson and colleagues, your national policy seems to have followed the reform rhetoric in the last 6 to 9 months. So credit to Kemi on that. And we've seen in councils up and down the country where Conservative leaders have supported a Green leader to create a coalition of chaos. And I just hope, and that resulted in the Conservatives HQ rightly furious. I hope, Councillor Jackson, you put your perhaps disdain or dislike towards me and my colleagues to one side, support this motion, because it is very much in line with your national policy. And let me be clear with you, should any of you on that bench over there fail to support this motion, I will put a letter into CCHQ advising them of what their local Conservative branch are like. But we'll put an olive branch out. If you do support it, I will make public that you've supported it, and I'll make public who hasn't supported it. And that will get you some credit in the bank for next year when the local elections come. Because if not, if you fail to support this, don't need to say any more. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Freeston. Councillor Clough. I'm sorry, Councillor Grice to second first.
I second, Madam Mayor, and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor Clough.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm comfortable not to have any credits in the bank. I've made some notes. I don't have a speech. I know who I am and I know what I believe in. I look to my right and I know what we are and what we believe in. However, I'm going to address some certain points in a very pragmatic approach. So back in 2016, the council did have a say about being part of the dispersal scheme. And the reason why they chose to be was due to financial implications. So we are a port town, which means that we are subject to having asylum seekers coming into our area. So being part of the dispersal scheme meant that we worked with other areas to take our fair share. Now, something we can all agree on is that residents are concerned about housing pressures, public services and community cohesion. But this motion does not address or solve any of those issues. It would make a change, but we would lose money. We are legally and duty bound, as we should be, to care, to be responsible for those who are vulnerable and those who are in need. The dispersal scheme is the exact mechanism that does give us power. It means that we have a percentage that is agreed on, and we are not above the percentage. It means we take our fair share. It means that if, as a port, as has happened before, if lots of people come into the port, we have the opportunity to say, we are at our percentage, so please, can you help us? We need other areas for these people to go. So the dispersal team the dispersal scheme is the exact mechanism that Councillor Freeston is referring to that he wants, which is that we have control, which is that we can manage the situation. This motion also blurs the distinction between asylum seekers, recognised refugees and people arriving through organised resettlement schemes. It's touched upon the Afghan scheme. They put their lives at risk serving with our soldiers. These are different groups of people and they are subject to different legal frameworks and should not be treated interchangeably. The motion claims to support local control, yet it proposes withdrawing from the very programmes where local authorities have the greatest degree of control and planning. But most importantly, we need to be incredibly careful of the message that we send as a borough, that it is unwilling to play any role in humanitarian responsibilities that communities across this country share. I do not want to represent a borough that picks and chooses who comes to stay, who we help, who we do not help. What is also missed out of the motion is that those who then are granted leave, go into our work system, go pay taxes, they may move away from here. But the 270 plus people and our officers have provided an absolutely comprehensive report, Madam Mayor, and there is no evidence brought from this motion at all that this is not putting our residents first. But what I cannot, and this is nothing I have not discussed with Councillor Freeston, this is a red line for me, because I think the more we keep saying this type of thing, the more we just make people think about it and feel upset and feel like, oh, it must be someone else's fault that I've got an empty house next to me. Well, guess what? It's our fault. It's a council's fault because we have failed for years on years on years to bring things back into use, to make bold decisions, to be brave for our area. So to put the blame somewhere else, let's have a look at ourselves. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do acknowledge the concerns that residents have raised about housing pressures, public services and the pace of change in our communities. Those concerns should not be dismissed. There are parts of this motion I agree with, especially the call for better data. If we're going to plan properly, we need clear, reliable information about the wider impact on our housing, infrastructure and services. Without that evidence, we end up relying on assumptions rather than facts, and that is not good governance. Even though I support the need for transparency, I can't support the motion as it stands. My first concern is the request for Cabinet to review our participation in voluntary resettlement schemes with a view to withdrawing. That wording already decides the outcome. A genuine review should be open-minded, based on evidence, and be capable of reaching more than one conclusion. If we tell Cabinet to review something, while also telling them what the conclusion should be, then it's not a review, it's a decision made in advance. And this matters because of the nature of the schemes involved. These humanitarian programmes exist to support people fleeing conflict, persecution and danger, often families and often children. Whatever our political differences, we should think carefully about what this says about us as a borough. If we signal an intention to withdraw from humanitarian commitments before we've seen evidence and data, a review should help us understand the impact. It shouldn't start with a predetermined decision to step away from helping people in genuine need. I don't doubt that the asylum system is abused by some, and that does need tackling, but that is a national government issue, not one we can control here in this chamber. My second concern is about deliverability. The motion expresses opposition to the compulsory asylum dispersal, and I can understand somewhat why residents feel strongly about this, but we need to be honest with the public. Asylum dispersal is not something we can opt out of.